Hey there. Do you feel like you are living life your way and on your own terms? Or do you feel like you want to break free, be heard, and just live your own damn life? And have you thought about what would happen if you did? What would the result be? Today, that's what I'm talking about, this rebellious concept of freeing yourself from all these expectations and this life that you're not in love with or that you want to look differently by doing things your way. And if I was tech savvy, I would insert, or more tech savvy, I would insert the music and the lyrics from the Bon Jovi song, It's My Life, that go, I ain't going to be just a face in the crowd. You're going to hear my voice when I shout it out loud. Those lyrics are what inspired that question that I started with. Do you feel like you're living life your way and on your own terms? So, very often I think of or refer to lyrics either when I'm writing or when I share stuff. I don't always mention the lyrics, but oftentimes they are an inspiration or just something that, I relate to lyrics. So, just so you know. Welcome to this week's episode of the Rockstar Manifestors podcast. And the topic or the title is Finding Freedom by Doing Things Your Way. So that's a quick cut to the chase. What would happen if you do things or start doing things your way or living life the way you want to? You find freedom. So FYI, that's the answer, but I am going to talk a little bit more about this as well. So what is your way? That's like the general theme, this concept of your way. And oftentimes I think we get either caught up or we just do things the way people have shown us or that we think we're supposed to do them or just the way they've always been done because that's the way they've always been done, right? So it's not that we did it on purpose, but it just happened. We fall into a flow or other people guide us, provide direction or suggestions. And a lot of times this comes from, right, this, I don't know if it's a concept, but this conditioning, if you will. When we're young, we're taught to follow the rules and do what other people say and follow the program or follow other people's examples. And it just simply becomes the way that things are done. So it's not that we're doing anything wrong or that we fell into this, or I should say it differently, or that we're doing this following other people's patterns on purpose. It's what we learned. It's what happened. It's what evolved. And breaking free of that is what I'm talking about, because that's what we have to do on purpose. The breaking free, the deciding to do things differently or our way. That's the thing we have to do on purpose, because the other way just evolved. It just happened. So, and also with that happening that way, when we start to think about breaking free, that's when, you can't do things differently. The pressures or the beliefs or the desires of other people really kind of amp up because it feels scary to us and it feels scary or unknown to them as well. What do you mean doing things differently? So we succumb or just kind of go along with the pressures or the guidance again of other people. So just know that it's not that you've been doing anything wrong or that you should have done things differently before. It's just knowing now that doing things your way is the thing that you now need to do on purpose and break free from the shoulds, from the conditioning, from the way they've always been done, or others' expectations that have maybe been guiding you. So doing things your way, that can range from so many things, from something very small and insignificant, like choosing your own products as opposed to what, other people have chosen for you in the past, to really making a life change or making some big steps. And knowing, and, touching back to when you do mention, or even when you think of doing things differently, it feels scary and it feels hard a lot of times as well. And I'm here to tell you that's not going to go away. And that those things are things you will experience. Things might be hard. Things might, or actually will be challenging on some level. The greater and bigger and more drastic or more important life change you want to make, then also the bigger that you will experience these things. And also, since I'm talking about lyrics that have inspired this topic, I would insert more lyrics from that same song. The It's My Life song from Bon Jovi. Those lyrics are, tomorrow's getting harder, make no mistake. Luck ain't even lucky, got to make your own breaks. So that's the thing. You and me and everyone, every single one of us have to take our own steps. We have to make our own breaks by doing things differently, by going with the flow, and by doing things the way others want. Yes, there is there's some kind of law or concept, like the randomness, the random things will pop up in our life, but doing things on purpose and doing things intentionally will attract more of those opportunities and will give you more clarity on what it is you want your life to look like. So I recently did a couple days ago, and also on my email from earlier this week, I shared a story about, because it's Thanksgiving week. I'm recording this podcast the day after Thanksgiving. It's November 24th, 2023. So it will air later today. I took yesterday off, which is the normal day that the podcast airs. So I'm recording this the day after. And so I shared a story earlier in the week on Facebook and in my email about how when I lived in the Midwest, I hosted a Thanksgiving taco bar, right? Because for myself and some friends who lived there and also did not have family living in the area. And I shared how I shouldn't say a lot, several of our coworkers said, "Oh, you can't do that. That's just wrong. You need to have turkey." And I had never, and even to date, have never prepared a turkey. And for the friends and for what I was doing then, I didn't want to learn. I didn't want to go through that. So that, that simple experience, right? That simple choice of deciding to host a taco bar created freedom for me by freeing me from comparison of others people's cooking of Thanksgiving foods. It freed me from the stress of trying to prepare and come up with and learn how to make a formal or a traditional Thanksgiving meal. And it freed me to participate and be part of the activities and interact with other people. And it was more of an interactive experience because people helped me prepare the condiments and we were all doing this together, and I was able to also participate in the fun. I wasn't removed or wasn't tied to making sure the food was done and checking the timers and things like that. Taco bar is really easy. I was able to pull that off no problem. That's something I can do fairly easily without a lot of planning. So something that simple still created freedom for me, freedom from those things like expectations and stress and worry and comparison, from other people. And also freed me from a potential disaster because I had never prepared a turkey. So what if it went wrong? And so all that was eliminated by me choosing to host a taco bar, which was so much fun. So, so even though there wasn't a lot of hardship in that experience, like I said, there's many levels of, the hardship or the challenges. It was just people's opinions that were just like, wait, what? That's not the way to do things on Thanksgiving. So doing things your way, some things will be super easy and other aspects of it will be more challenging. And one of the things that's great is that with those challenges and every time that we do things our own way, we learn, right? We learn how to react or not to react to other people's opinions and what they say. We learn to follow our own choices. We learn how to become more and more our unique and authentic self. And I really, as I say that, it's not so much learning how to become our authentic selves. There may be some of that, but really it's unlearning how to, or unlearning this concept or this idea or what we've always done of following the established plan, following the established expectations, following the way things have always done. It's really more of unlearning that and breaking free from that and simply revealing layer by layer what is already authentically us. So I think that is more of an accurate description. And I have had other experiences where there was a bigger challenge, right? I've shared the story about how, on some level, I have to look back on the podcast episodes, but I shared the story how when I lived in the Midwest, I was in a relationship that was not fulfilling. It was just not the right relationship for me, but I felt that I had to stay there because I had made the decisions, right? Like my choices and my actions had led me there, which is accurate. All that is true. But my thinking that I had back then was that I had to make the best of it, that I had to stay and make the best of it. And if you've heard that phrase, you've made your bed, now lie in it. I felt like, well, I made my bed. Now I have to lie in it and make the best of it. And really what I needed, and this terminology came to me via a friend several years later when I was telling this story, but I needed a new bed, not to make the best of the bed that I had, but I needed a new bed. And so this example is perfect because if you have a bed, AKA life circumstances or situations that don't feel great, finding the new one might be the actual challenge, right? Not what if, you have to try out different beds, try out different activities, try out different possibilities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but I just wanted to point out that there's so many layers to this that I mean, I'm sure I'll be doing other episodes about this same topic because it is from little to just choosing your own, your own product or your own way of doing things or your own planning system to huge life changes. But all these little steps contribute. And the seemingly little and easier or seemingly insignificant choices that you choose to do your own way or to try things differently contribute to the bigger picture choices, the bigger life changes. It's the same process, and we're just experiencing different levels of challenges and hardships and resistance from ourselves as well as from others. So, what if you don't know what your way is, right? What if you know your circumstances or some aspect of your life, it can be your job, your finances, your relationship, where you live, there's limitless possibilities or options. But what if you're in a place that it's not what you want, or you want more, like better of what you've got, or just something completely different, but you don't know what that is. The simple thing is just like that example that I shared about trying out the new beds or taking cars for a test drive. There's so many examples that I could put in here. Just try doing something different. Try things out. It's not likely going to be like an immediate change that happens from one day to the next, unless it is something like picking a different product or trying a new product. But just for the sake of conversation, for the bigger changes or the things that are way more heavily or feel like a bigger challenge to change, it's likely not going to happen overnight. And you likely didn't get in that circumstance overnight either. So letting go of that expectation or of that, I don't know if that's the thing. Oh, it needs to happen overnight. And I need to know what the thing is to make it happen overnight. Letting go of that thinking and simply getting curious. So if you don't know what even step to try, I'm going to give you a very simple activity. Let's say you want to make a life change. You want to make a change in career and job and life circumstances, whatever, but you don't know what the thing is to try. Do something different. Something from your everyday routine, even if it's not related to the change you want to make. So for example, if you want to make, because it's an easy example, you want to change your job or you want to quit your job and start a business or be your own boss or whatever the case is. Don't worry about what is the thing that I need to do. What is my next job? What is the business that I need to start? Let go of that thinking and simply do something like driving a different way to work, taking a different route, leaving at a different time, changing up your morning routine in some way. That likely, is not related to the change that you're going to make, and other than it's just you're on your way to work and you're driving a different way or you're driving a different way home. But this just changes things up. It starts to open up and invite new ways of seeing things, new opportunities. Who knows? You might just read some random sign, or you might see something along the way that inspires you. And I'm not saying it's going to happen right away or on the first time, but simply breaking up the routine in some area of your life, right? If you go walking in the morning normally, why not try walking in the afternoon as well, or vice versa, or walking both times? Who knows? Again, there's limitless possibilities, but think of something that you can change in your day-to-day routine and do something a little bit differently, even if it's not related to the change you want to make. And I also have I have a few suggestions for you. My second one is my go-to formula, which you will hear me talk about, many times and in many different scenarios, but it's my go-to formula of 2 questions to ask yourself. And that is, in this moment, what can I do to feel? And then you insert your desired feeling. So for example, in this moment, what can I do to feel more energized? Let's say, it's later in the day and I'm personally feeling, oh my gosh, I'm still tired. All the, the food and the things that I ate. What can I do to feel more energized? And the answer that pops up to mind is to, go for a walk. I'm staying at my brother's house right now, house and dog sitting, so I can take their dog for a walk, which is what I am going to do shortly after finishing this. But it's in the moment to moment things. First of all, the first one I suggested was making a small change in routine, a minor change in a routine activity. Next is ask yourself that question. In this moment, what can I do to feel your desired way? And I should have started that with the first question is, how do I want to feel? I skipped right over that part. But how do I want to feel right now? And what can I do in this moment to feel that way? That also gets you in the habit or in the practice of taking action and doing something right away instead of waiting for this desired result. Let's see where I'm at here. So that's my go-to formula. How do I want to feel, and what can I do in this moment to feel that way right now without having to wait for it? And that is also you manifesting a feeling instantly or very quickly instead of, again, waiting for some external circumstances to make or create those changes. And the third, this ties together with a couple more questions. If you've been around for any length of time, or if you hang out here for any future length of time, you will find that I ask a lot of questions. I ask them of you. I give you questions to ponder. I ask them of myself. Questions are just, part of me, part of being in my world. So one of the biggest things, though, to help, or I don't even know if help is the right word. A big component of getting to the point. What is the right way to say this? I don't even really, that's kind of weird. I know what I'm trying to say, but it's like, okay, the roles that these things play, the role of accepting your circumstances is really one of the key aspects of lifting that weight, or that chain of expectations. Excuse me. Because I think, at least from my personal experience, when we're going along with the flow or going along with the expectations that we think we're supposed to have or that other people have for us, and then we try to live up for them, is, well, we want to change past patterns, right? But that's really counterproductive, because you might be familiar with the saying, if you want to make change, you want different results, you need to do things differently. But in our brain, we tell ourselves, oh, I was really bad at this before, so I need to do it again and get better. Or I didn't achieve the result this time, and there must be something wrong with me, so I need to, do it again. Or I'm just not doing it the right way. I'm not following the plan well enough, and that's why I'm not getting my desired results, or why I'm not getting different results than what I want. Really, you need to just do something different. You need to change things up to get different results. And if you're attached to a story like, oh, I've never been able to successfully complete this, I've never been able to find the thing that I want, so I just need to double down on what hasn't been working, is broken thinking, but it's also what we've become used to. So change the shit up. Really, it's that simple. And you start to get ideas. You start to feel differently. You start to think, what else can I try differently? And all I can say that I keep coming back to is simply try something small. Start small and don't go for the big leap right away. It's building up this muscle. So accepting our circumstances, accepting that we haven't been successful in the past, accepting that, our desired results have not happened, and accepting where we are right now is such a key component of also experiencing that freedom that we desire. Accept I haven't been successful in the past. Okay, great. That means I can now try something new. Doesn't that simply feel free, just saying and hearing that? Okay, I've sucked at this in the past. I haven't achieved my results in the past. Great. Now what can I do differently? It just opens up. It lifts that weight of, oh, judgment, and oh, I'm so bad at it. It's like, I have been bad at it. So why don't I try something new and see if something else happens, if something different happens? It seems so simple, but at least in my experience, I was really just sucked into that. Oh my gosh, everyone's expectations, I don't live up to them. I suck. I suck at managing money, or I suck at, being successful and being able to do the fun things that I want in my life. And really what it came down to is me trying to live, to fulfill. That's a better, me wanting to fulfill other people's expectations was actually me living down to others' expectations when I actually have much higher expectations. So that might be a concept for you to kind of think about too. What if trying to fulfill other people's expectations is actually you living down to their expectations because yours are so much bigger and so much bolder than what they are aware of or what they see or want for you. So that's just something to think about. But accepting where you are, accepting yourself, accepting your past experiences as okay, that's how things are. And I want to make changes. And I'm going to try something different. It really just, pick a situation in your life and say, oh, that's just the way it is. But it doesn't have to stay that way. And for it not to stay that way, I simply need to try or do things differently. Still a little scary, but doesn't it also have a sense of freedom or a sense of this weight being lifted or give you a sense of being able to take a little bit of a deeper breath? It's like, oh, okay, this is where I am in life. Great. I can't change what's happened, but I can change what comes next, or I can change the trajectory of where I am now simply by making little changes. I don't have this in my notes, but just as I said that, like making little changes has a huge trajectory, a huge difference in the end. It's not a concept. It's like if you think of starting of an airplane, right? If you're flying from New York to the West Coast, so let's say LA, because I live in LA. So if you're flying from New York, or if a pilot, because I'm not a pilot, but if a pilot is flying a plane from New York and wants to go to LA, that's the destination. And there's certain coordinates, right? There's certain coordinates that they have to follow, or a path, or whatever it's called. My brother's a pilot, and I've said this before, he probably would cringe hearing me try to explain these terms. But if you make a change of, let's say, 3 degrees, as the pilot takes off from New York, he makes a change of 3 degrees. In the moment, here in New York, it's not going to have that big a difference. But if you expand that line, that trajectory, instead of going to LA, he might end up in, San Francisco, or maybe even further north. So it's this concept of the little change at the beginning may not feel so significant, but following that trajectory and that visual or that result at the end has huge results. So even if I didn't do a great job explaining that, I hope that it helped. It wasn't in my notes. It just popped in. So I just thought I'd go with it. So acceptance of your circumstances is huge. And then the last 3 questions that I will leave you with that you can jot down and refer back to and use as a way to help you start to do things differently is think of whatever the circumstance is, as big or as micro or as macro, as big or as little as you want, or as that comes to mind, and say, or ask yourself, is this really how I want to do things? Or change it to fit? Or is this really how I want things to be? Or is this really what I want to be doing, right? Is this really how I want, and then fill in what works for your circumstance. And another question is, if I planned this the way that I wanted, what would I do differently? And then tied on to that, does it really have to be like this, or does it really have to go this way? And then the third question, that one was like 2 together. So the third one is, what would happen if and then fill in a new scenario. If I chose differently, if I, took a different action. So these are questions that you can ponder And if you're listening to this or watching this, they will also be, or depending on where you're listening to and watching this, these questions will also be in either the show notes or the description, wherever it happens to be on that platform, on the podcast platform, or on YouTube that you happen to be listening to and watching this. So that is my chat for today. For finding freedom is the result of doing things differently, or that is a path to the freedom that you might be looking for, doing things differently. And so I encourage you to share your stories with me. You can do that by emailing me. You can email me at vision at bluemoonmanifestations.com. If you want to be a bit more interactive, I actually do, or I did a Facebook live on this topic, not as in depth. It was just a much shorter example of me sharing my taco bar story, and that you could reply or comment on the video, ask questions, and I go back and answer them. And I do that live typically on Wednesdays. And so that's going to be the pattern that I'm working with right now. I'm going to do a quick chat or just share a story or an anecdote on the Facebook Live, and soon also to be Instagram Live. I've just received or just gotten the availability to do an Instagram Live from my laptop, which means that I should be able to stream it into the Instagram and Facebook at the same time. I've tried that a couple times so far, and it hasn't quite worked. So I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I'm going to keep trying. So when I get that worked out, those weekly lives will be on both Facebook and Instagram. And if social media is not your thing, I will also be sharing little snippets on YouTube of the same chats. And then there is, of course, the podcast that is a completely different format. And I invite you again to share in the captions, in the chat, or in the comments if it's available, or email me your stories, your experiences, questions that you have. So lastly, like I said, I'm recording this on November 24th of 2023, the day after Thanksgiving. Every month in my Moon Manifesting Rockstars Facebook group and on my YouTube channel, I do a live once a month for the new moon and once a month at the full moon. And so this Sunday, which is 2 days from now, I will be doing my live for the full moon. And we are just into Sagittarius season as well. So I will talk a little bit about that. And the live is going to be on Sunday, November 26th at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you're listening to this in the future, and it's after, well after this Sagittarius season, I do those lives, like I said, once a month, once for the new moon, one at the new moon and one at the full moon, or just before. So check that out. The replays are still available, or are always available. And if you have a specific topic that you would like me to chat about, I invite you to share it in the comments or email me at that same email, vision at bluemoonmanifestations.com. And thank you guys for being here. I will see you next week. Take care, guys.